Sonic the Hedgehog has had many voices throughout the franchise's history, ranging from movies, TV shows, and even games. So in today's video, we are going to be ranking every single Sonic voice actor from the different media that he's actually appeared in. Now I'm only going to include the voices for Sonic that actually matter, so we don't care about ugly Sonic from Chip and Dale, because I don't really care about that voice to rank it. And also another thing, we are not ranking actual people in this list, no. We are ranking specifically how they sound as Sonic the Hedgehog. So if a person here appears lower on the list, that does not mean, oh, I hate them with a burning passion as an actual human being. No, I just don't like how they sound as Sonic. Simple, that's all it is. Anyways, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let us rank every single voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. Starting off in the bottom of the E tier, we have absolutely nobody. There is not a single main Sonic voice actor that I think is so bad to be in the E tier, so well done lads, well done. That being said, the only voice actor that we have in the D tier, and I'm sorry to do it to him, but it's Roger Craig Smith. I don't know for a fact this video is going to get 1,000 dislikes now just because I've said Roger is my least favourite Sonic voice actor, but I don't really care, mate. This is my opinion and I am allowed to have it, just as you are allowed to disagree with me. But to get into my reasoning for this placement, I just don't think Roger sounds as youthful as any other Sonic voice actor, and that is a problem for a character that is supposed to be a teenager. Ever since Roger's debuted as Sonic the Hedgehog back in Sonic Freeriders and Sonic Colors, actually no, take Freeriders out of that equation actually, because ever since Sonic Colors actually, Roger has always sounded to me like an old man trying to put on a voice of a teenager. And while yeah, that's what a voice actor is, duh, but in Roger's case, I feel like in every single line that Sonic has, there's always the inflection of an old man coming out at the end of every line. It doesn't matter how high-pitched it sounds, I can still hear the old man voice in it. Now the reason I said take Freeriders out of that equation is because Freeriders is the only Sonic game where I feel like Roger does have the old man inflection coming in at the end of every single line. And it's weird because I feel like this is the only game that Roger actually manages to pull this off, and I think it's mostly because this is the only game where he was trying to imitate how Jason Griffith sounded before he was probably directed to go off in a new direction with his voice. And even though I like Jason and pretty much everybody more than the way Roger sounds as Sonic, if he kept that inflection from Freeriders where the old man voice kind of didn't come through, I might actually be content with Roger as Sonic. I won't love or even like it, but it at least gets the job done and I can actually tell that it's at least supposed to be Sonic the Hedgehog. But as it stands right now, Roger simply does not fit Sonic at all for me. And this is especially apparent in the new direction with Frontiers where they've gone even deeper than Sonic is usually with Roger. And it just sounds so awful. I genuinely cannot believe people actually like this deep voice for Sonic T. Hedgehog, the character who is iconic for having a youthful and cool sounding voice. Yet we go to Frontiers and he sounds genuinely just like Roger talking, which is not what I want to hear for Sonic the Hedgehog. The only time that Roger excels at a version of Sonic is in Sonic Boom, because as I've said in a previous video, Boom Sonic is a completely different character than Game Sonic, meaning that when you give him a different voice, it actually works because again, it's a different character. But unfortunately as Game Sonic, as I said already, no. Simply no. I genuinely think we're at a point now where we need a recast desperately for Game Sonic. But here's the thing, if Sonic was to ever get recasted from Roger, I don't want Roger to leave this franchise at all, because he is a very talented voice actor and just an all-around funny and chill guy. But the sad fact is that he's been miscasted since day one, and I can't really sit here and say, oh, it's all Roger's fault that Sonic sounds bad, because it's not. He's just doing his job that he's been paid to do. It's all the higher-ups' fault for putting Roger in this position in the first place. And unfortunately, because of that tragic miscast, here we are 15 years later, still suffering the consequences. And the fact it's even been 15 years makes it even harder for a recast to even happen, because Roger has been the longest running Sonic voice actor ever for the character, meaning that unfortunately, most people when they hear Roger's voice associate it with Sonic the Hedgehog, which also means they don't see anything bad with this voice because it's all they've ever known, so like, what is the issue here? But anyways, I think you all get the point now. I don't like Roger as Sonic, unfortunately. He's a sick guy, great voice actor, but just not as Sonic the Hedgehog. Anyways, moving swiftly on to the bottom of the C tier, we have Ben Schwartz as Movie Sonic. Now thankfully, Movie Sonic is not Game Sonic, is well, Movie Sonic, which means he has a completely different character than how he's supposed to be in the games. And because of this, it doesn't bother me as much as Roger as Game Sonic, but ugh. Now, despite Ben being a perfect fit for the character, because I genuinely can't see anybody else doing some of these lines that Movie Sonic has, I think Ben's acting can be a bit crap sometimes. And it is also apparent in Movie 3, whereas somebody like Roger can pull off these anime-esque screams perfectly because they have the experience from previous voice acting roles. I just feel like Ben has some work to do because, oh my god, hearing Movie Sonic's wimpy sounding screams when he's punching Shadow is just... it just takes me right out of the moment sometimes, man. But apart from that, I think when it comes to like just sitting down and just talking to other characters, I think Ben does a good job. He can put on a nice talking voice. I just think that when it comes to more action-based stuff, I think Ben could do with a bit more work because his acting skills are a bit rough when it comes to that. Anyways, moving on to the top of the C tier, we have Devon Mack as Sonic from Sonic Prime. Now here's the thing, it's kind of hard to me to rank Devon Mack properly on this list because the only role that he's been given for Prime Sonic is the worst written Sonic in the franchise in my opinion. Like he has some of the worst lines any Sonic voice actor has been given to voice, and for that, I feel bad for Devon because again, I can't really judge him fairly because when I hear his voice, all I'm hearing is those terrible lines from Sonic Prime, and that really just sours my attitude towards his take on the character. Besides the terrible lines though, I don't think it helps that I feel like Devon Mack is very inspired by Roger's take on Sonic, and it makes sense, right? I mean, Roger is the main Sonic voice for the games right now, so trying to imitate that makes sense. But of course, I don't really like Roger as Sonic, and if you're gonna try to imitate a bad Sonic voice, your voice unfortunately isn't gonna come out too great either. But that being said though, that youthful energy is still there in Devon Mack's voice. It's not like Roger where I can hear the old man in every single line. No, it's actually very similar to like Jaleel White's take on the character, honestly. Like, it sounds very similar to like Jaleel White and then Roger at the same time. And thankfully that Roger part of the voice isn't always there, so you do get occasionally some nice sounding lines. It's just once again, that writing, man. If Devon Mack ever gets a chance to voice Sonic again and is given an actual good script, I'll be very interested to hear how he sounds there. Because I think Devon Mack has the most potential out of any voice actor here. It's just a shame that, yeah, he hasn't really had much time to shine. But anyways, moving on to the bottom of the B tier, we have Jaleel White as Sonic from the 90s cartoons. Now, funnily enough, the only 90s Sonic cartoon I actually grew up watching was the worst one, Sonic Underground. So all I've seen of Satyam and the other one is just clips floating around on the internet. But as a voice for Sonic, I think Jaleel White does a decent job. I mean, also we gotta consider the fact that Sonic from these 90s cartoons isn't really an accurate representation of him from the games. It's essentially a different take on the character. Now, not like Boom Sonic or Movie Sonic where it's a completely different character, but it's different enough to be considered its own thing. And as a different interpretation of Sonic, I think, again, Jaleel White does a fantastic job voicing this character. He just sounds like a typical cool sounding character, especially with all the lines that he's given during the shows as well. So, like, I just gotta respect this voice, to be honest. Now, I wouldn't put this voice obviously on Game Sonic because again the personalities are a bit different here, but it's just an all-around decent Sonic voice. Not my favourite, but definitely far from the worst. But now let's move on to the top of the B tier. We have Martin Burke from the Sonic OVA. Now Martin Burke is interesting for me because while I do like his voice, I wouldn't put it on Game Sonic, but I would put it on a classic Sonic voice though, which obviously the OVA is supposed to be a classic Sonic. Because honestly he just sounds like a younger version of Ryan Drummond, and for what he's doing for Sonic, yeah, that makes complete sense. Now, bearing in mind that I haven't actually seen the OVA in its entirety, I've only seen little clips of it here and there. But again, from what I've seen, sounds pretty good. Again, not my favourite voice for Sonic, but if Sega were ever to go back and give classic Sonic a voice in the games, I would definitely say make it sound like Martin Burke. Anyways, let's move on to the A tier, where we start off with nothing. There are no Sonic VAs in the A tier in my opinion, which means we move to the S tier, starting off with Ryan Drummond as Sonic from the Adventure era, the first proper voice for Sonic in the games, and by god what a great one he was. I think what's so great about Ryan Drummond's take on Sonic is that he just sounds like Junichi Kanemaru. Despite Ryan and Junichi speaking entirely different languages, just strictly by the way their voice sounds, they sound pretty much one-to-one to each other, and that is exactly how Sonic should be sounding in English. He should match the voice that he has in Japanese, because that is how his original creators intended for him to sound. So if a Sonic voice matches perfectly the voice of the Japanese Sonic, that is pretty much a great Sonic voice right there, which is why Ryan is so great. Obviously he started out in SA1, so his voice was a bit rough because of lack of proper direction, but once he was actually given some good voice direction in SA2, yeah, that was pretty much a golden Sonic voice right there, and he only got better as time went on. SA2 was an improvement over SA1, and then Heroes was the peak of how his voice he sounded. It's just such a shame that after he peaked in Heroes, he was pretty much replaced. Now of course, while Ryan isn't my favourite voice for Sonic in the English side, if we were stuck with Ryan for the rest of time after Heroes, you would not hear me complaining a single bit at all. Because while I think Ryan does lack a bit of range in his voice compared to other actors on this list, it's just a simple fact that when I hear Ryan, I hear Sonic the Hedgehog, no matter how bad his direction is. And this is exactly why I can't get on board with Roger Craig Smith, because it doesn't matter how bad the direction for Ryan's voice is, he still always sounds like Sonic because of the way his voice is, and I can never say the same thing for Roger Craig Smith's Sonic. A good voice for a character doesn't just come from decent voice direction, they always have to at least sound like the character at first. Then with greater voice direction, their voice like the character will always excel even more, and that's simply what makes every single other voice actor on this list more suitable than Roger Craig Smith. But yeah, Ryan simply goated as Sonic, there's no other way around it. But he's not my favourite English voice actor, because next up on this list we of course have the GOAT, Jason Griffith. Now yes, I'll admit straight off the bat, part of this placement is because of a slight bit of bias, because this is a Sonic that I properly grew up with. Despite me technically growing up in the Meta era, I was still always on those Dark Age games. Partly because I didn't actually own any Nintendo consoles growing up except for the Nintendo DS, so I didn't experience Boom or anything on the Wii, it was just strictly anything on PlayStation. And up until 2017, there was basically not much of Sonic between 2011 and 2017 on PlayStation, so yeah, I was just stuck with everything on the Dark Age on PlayStation except for Sonic Generations. And honestly, I'm glad I was, because Jason Griffith, he's just simply goated. Now let's not get things twisted here. Jason didn't start out perfect as the voice for Sonic. He was once again kind of hurt by the fact that his voice direction was not perfect. This is especially apparent in Sonic 06, because while some lines sound perfectly fine, Jason usually in 06 says everything in the same tone of voice, because for some reason, this is just how Sonic sounds. But once again, despite some pretty bad voice direction, he always at least sounded like Sonic. He still always had that youthful energy in him just like Junichi and Ryan did, and then as he was improved with better voice direction starting with 2007, he showed to me that he has much more range than Ryan Drummond's take on the character, which is why I actually prefer Jason Griffith to Ryan Drummond. And also in my opinion, Jason is the coolest Sonic has ever sounded. Jason could be given the worst line of all time, but it doesn't matter because somehow, with his great sounding voice, he'll still somehow make it sound cool. And that's just simply why he is my GOAT right here. And it also helps that he matches the way Junichi Kanemaru sounds as Sonic. Not as much as Ryan does, mind you, but still enough to the point where I can say that yes, this is definitely a Sonic the Hedgehog voice. But unfortunately, once again, same as Ryan, just as when Jason started peaking as his voice for Sonic, he was unfortunately replaced. And unfortunately, at Sega, that's just simply how the ball rolls, or the Hedgehog in this case. But now, despite Jason Griffith being my favourite English voice actor, I don't think he is the best voice for Sonic. Because coming in next, the best voice actor on this tier list, I believe is Junichi Kanemaru, the Japanese voice actor for Sonic that has been here since the very beginning back in Sonic Adventure 1 in 1998. And just that fact alone should show you how much more Japan actually cares about his voice actors than the English people do. Because again, Junichi's been here for 27 years voicing Sonic the Hedgehog, and the way his voice has sounded for Sonic has never wavered. He has sounded great as Sonic since day one. And for that, I've just gotta simply put so much respect on Junichi's name. I might not ever play a Sonic game in Japanese because I speak English, but the greatness of Junichi Kanemaru just simply cannot be understated. Whenever I sit there and watch a Sonic Unleashed speedrun that's played in Japanese, I'm just sitting there thinking, man, Junichi, despite it being Japanese, he still sounds fantastic. Junichi mixes in a cool sounding voice with a bit of cuteness in there, and then this man Junichi has some crazy range with his voice acting. Like if you thought Roger Scream at the end of Final Horizon was crazy, just listen to the way Junichi sounds. A special reminder, this man has been doing this for 27 years and the quality of his voice acting has never wavered. Like, despite my favourite voice for Sonic being Jason Griffith, I cannot deny the best voice of Sonic is Junichi Kanemaru. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And with that is the end of this video. So yeah, these are my rankings of the most important Sonic voice actors. Now of course this is no disrespect to anybody in other languages, it's just the fact that I don't feel like people talk about them as much, and also because I never really bothered to listen to them, and I know that sounds kind of douchebaggish from me because like I'm ignoring an entire set of voice actors because I just speak English. But yeah, I guess I'll take the L on that one, to be honest. That's my bad, bros. But let me know your thoughts on this topic. What is your favourite Sonic voice actor throughout the franchise's history? Let me know down below. Love to see what you guys have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, especially that last one. Don't forget to become unleashed by hitting that join button down below. Remember, it's not necessary. And I will see you all next time. Peace.